Ladies and gentlemen, it's Adrian Zunchik, CMT Charter Market Technician, Crypto Burp, and I want to welcome you to our today's RWA's roundtable discussion, right? We're going to have a very interesting talk with our today's guests, who are all of our incredible partners. I'm truly honored and blessed to be working with those incredible legends. Speaking of Ben of Alchemy, who's our amazing partner there monetizing the ads site, and Pedro, who's representing TokenFi, and Flocky, our incredible partners there as well, contributing so much to the space, and Bart, who's coming off the EstateX, amazing RWA real estate platform. And I'm here kind of like, trying to moderate and contribute, but most of the time you can expect me to keep my mouth shut because I'm joined by extremely talented people. And I'm learning so much every time I talk to you. So that's going to be a good one. I'm looking forward to it. And for our viewers and listeners, let's give a brief round of introductions. Ben, starting with you, then off to Bart and to Pedro about who you are, what your project does, and how it contributes to your RWA scene. And let's kick it off this way, shall we, Ben?
Thanks, Adrian. My name is Ben. I am the CEO of Alchemy. Alchemy is an ad exchange built on a blockchain. So we facilitate the buying and selling of ads online and provide a yield to those that provide bandwidth to the exchange. So in effect, tokenizing a $600 billion ad market.
My name is Bart. I'm the founder of EstateX. Excuse me, guys. By the way, I'm a little bit sick today, so don't mind if I'm coughing or anything. Part of the deal, unfortunately. No, my name is Bart, founder of EstateX. We're a real estate tokenization platform. Also, currently looking into other verticals. What we're actually building is not only a investment platform, but basically this all-in-one RWA hub / financial management app with everything managed around your finances in one place. So investing within a couple of minutes, trading marketplaces, exit options, liquidity providers, loans for instant access to finance, payment cards to make your assets so liquid that you can actually pay with it, and lots more. So that is EstateX in short.
Well, my name is Pedro Vidal. I am the Community Relations Officer for Floki and TokenFi. And since the main focus is on RWAs, then I'll give a little insight on our TokenFi platform. TokenFi was created by Floki and is managed by the Floki DAO. And our TokenFi platform was created essentially to be an all-in-one stop for you to create your own crypto assets, launch them, seed funding, connect with market makers. And then, of course, there's the additional feature of our RWA tokenization module, which for us is a very exciting component because it's just at the right time where the world is needing these types of products. So I'm excited to be discussing with this incredible panel.
Love it so much, especially that I see that you've grown back your beard, which makes me really, really smiley. For everybody, I had this pleasure to meet Pedro back in the day. I think it was in Binance Blockchain Week, wasn't it? That we aligned there for the beard growth strategies. That was a nice talk. Yeah. Jokes aside, though, we have quite a serious topic, on the RWAs, the real world assets, tokenization of the assets. Larry Fink talks about crypto as the next generation of assets. He wants to tokenize bonds, securities, stocks ASAP. He urges SEC to regulate it as soon as possible because he's holding the stake in it. And, well, we are all kind of like holding back in a way in our RWAs. We are all having a stake. However, let's face the truth. Let's face the reality as if what's happening today. What's the state of the market today? How would you describe Bart, starting with you, the actual RWA landscape as we are kicking off the Q2 of 2025.
I think we're making a lot of progression, to be honest, within the RWA space. I mean, seeing when the StateX started, for example, 5 years ago, where the state of the market was, and it was more just wishful thinking and basically planting the seeds for a lot of these projects coming into the market. We're now actually seeing real traction with all these big platforms, obviously platforms like Securitize, receiving investments from BlackRock, I believe, tokenizing their own verticals. You see the CEOs of Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan speak about it on a frequently basis. And also all the research has shown that we're actually going into the right direction, right? I mean, estimating that you see a 40-fold growth according to some researchers from 2022 to 2030. I think we're in the middle of that wave that we're actually now capitalizing, and you see it a lot within the crypto space as well, with a lot of new RWA projects coming on. So I think more and more institutions are getting to it, recognizing the incredible benefits that tokenization had. Just like you just said, Adrian, Larry Fink talks about it being the next generation of markets constantly. He's very bullish on it, and I think that's a very telling story, that this is the future of the financial market. Tokenization, I think, is going to be the next big thing after the internet. I think it's going to be the internet 2.0, the next big revolution transforming financial markets, and suggesting that we see 10 to $15 trillion projected to be tokenized assets under management in 2030. I think we're on the right track, the right trajectory, and I'm very excited about the future.
Ben, are we on the right track?
I think so, yeah. It's what's interesting to me is that we've moved out of general purpose infrastructure, if you want to call that, like the rails upon which these specialized use cases make sense for people. I think the great thing about a lot of L1s that exist is that you can build anything on them. I think what it then takes is for people to tell other people what it is exactly that you can build, and then that is like the logic gap that's often missing, because it can be quite a high barrier to entry for some people. It's like, if you can build anything, it's like, well, what exactly should I build? And it takes early adopters and creators to say, you can start tokenizing, in our instance, the digital ad market, and people are actually kind of, that makes sense. I'll just use that platform to access a yield from revenues that are generated from people being online. So I think the specification of infrastructure makes it easier for people to understand. And as soon as that really clicks with people, it will just be the best way in which you can access these markets, because the operational side of things, logistical side of things, the access to capital, like actually interacting with it, is improving all the time. And I think once you see that realized, there will just be a flood of capital, as Bart was saying, and it just makes a lot of what were historical issues with even just the paperwork involved, you know, typically when you're buying something, that disappears because it's all measured on chain. That makes life much easier in general. It just speeds the process of adoption. So yeah, I think we are on the right track, I think is what I'll say.
Love it. And Pedro, same question to you, right? From the perspective POV of TokenFi and Floki, like, are the institutions actually moving faster than you expected or slower?
I would say that they're moving at the right pace. I mean, I would say that I share the same optimism as Ben and Bart, that we're moving in the right direction. And there's always the details that you can infer by what you read or what you're able to perceive, you know, in the markets. But I think we should be looking at the major players, right? And if I could just, you know, take us back to memory lane, when the first Bitcoin ETF was approved in the US, you would think that that's an event that jubilant in nature, right? That we should just rejoice. And when you look at the Larry Finks of the world, and even Larry Fink in particular, yeah, he was excited about the Bitcoin ETF, but he just saw that as a stepping stone, right, to tokenization. And he just started to pitch tokenization hard, as opposed to just heralding, right, how far we've come to get the Bitcoin ETF approved. So I think that's very telling. And I also share the same sentiment with Ben, that there's an education component, that retail doesn't fully understand the power, right, of fractionalized ownership, or, you know, and just RWA tokenization in general, almost at the same parallels of how people didn't understand how powerful the internet would be in the very beginning. Because people would say, well, why do I need to send an email when the mail's working just fine? Well, I think fractionalized ownership is going to bring such a new dimension, right? From your capital inflows to lending opportunities. There's really like no industry that I could see that will not be impacted in some way by the tokenization of RWAs. So I think we're on the right track. I would like to see things move a little faster, and I'm sure we'll touch upon these topics on what may be inhibiting, right, us moving faster. But I certainly share the same sentiment as Ben and Bart, and I'm excited to see how this conversation unfolds.
Got it. And so there is some discrepancy very often in terms of what people would expect, what the community would expect, right? In terms of how fast it can move on, because at times it feels like we just snap a finger and things magically happen. While the reality is that, just like you gentlemen referred, there's a lot of paperwork involved. There's a lot of process. There's a lot of like to give an example, I'm an equity holder of a Swiss-based hedge fund that is tokenized, right? And to obtain a FINMA license, it takes a lot of time. Let's face it this way. Let's put it this way, right? And those are not easy things, to comply and to, like, even now with the micro regulations these days, it's even more difficult to make it kind of like complementary, to make it comply, to make it compatible with what regulators expect in order to provide the safety metrics, right? So are those the particular examples of what's currently blocking, let's say, Alchemy right now, Ben?
I think to some degree, yeah. I would also say there's education which needs to be done, but I think that's one thing. I think the other part is like actually experiencing what it is. Like when you trade ads using Alchemy, you get more media for your money, which is like quite impactful for acquiring new customers. People hear that, don't necessarily experience it, and it doesn't make a big difference to their life. Like people actually have to experience a new type of behavior to realize how redundant the old behavior was. Like if you think about, I don't know, when you used to buy an album on a CD, you bought the 8 tracks that filled it because that's the only way that you could listen to that whole album. But then Spotify came along and it's actually like, okay, I only like 3 of the tracks. I'll just listen to 3 of them. I need to buy the whole album. It doesn't make sense anymore. Or like remote working, that didn't make sense. Like your commute wasn't too bad because you had to go to an office to work. Like as soon as people realized that you didn't need to commute to an office to work, it made getting up at 6:30 in the morning and brushing your teeth and ironing your shirt even more painful than it was already. And now it's very difficult to convince people otherwise that the old behavior makes more sense. So it is a case of the starting point is this is what you can do with a blockchain. The second point is like getting to critical mass of people experiencing it. And then the old behaviors just become redundant. Like, why did I do it the other way? It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense to do that way anymore. And that's just a time thing, like time exposure. We've got more people talking about blockchain than ever before. Like the president of the United States has his own token, which that what you will, but like it's crazy that that's what we can say now. This is like a better timeline to be on than what could have been, but still, like a lot of people just need to experience it. Like we're still very, very early in the adoption of blockchains, the ubiquity of blockchains. So yes, experience plus education, I think, will be the main key, and it's just time. That's the blocker right now. It's time, I think.
You seem to be doing that and very well on the Flocky side, Pedro, quite honestly, right? Because what you contribute to is a lot of kind of like a lot of community treatment, a lot of community, I should say, responsiveness, right? There is a very decent interaction that I've always admired about Flocky and TokenFi, how you position, how you inform, how you communicate to the people. So you have a very engaged community right there, right? So what would you say from your perspective, or from the perspective of community that is the biggest blockage right now that you want to remove off of your way?
Well, I think there's macro and micro issues, right? On the macro side, we see just like regulatory uncertainty, right, in some jurisdictions that you may want to perform in. There's also like scalability issues, but I think when you get down to the grain, and we want to atomize what's going on, I think Ben is right. There's a strong education component, and for us for crypto projects that were born in the meme space, it's already an uphill battle. Typically, memes aren't seen as to have utility. So when we wanted to be different and be hyper focused on utility, we're constantly grinding, right? Instead of listening to the noise, we just continue to build and innovate. And we don't want to just participate right, in Web3, right? We want to be a leader. We don't want to follow trends. We want to create them. While that may, just be, hyperbole for some. That's really what we believe in, right? It's our ethos. We want to be the best at what we do. In order to do that, you need to fix certain problems. So when we're looking at blockchain gaming, it's been just essentially plagued by a non-sustainable economy, or the play to earn mechanics that aren't sound. We wanted to fix that problem. So when you look at what we stand for, that was our first flagship utility product that we wanted to focus on. So that's tantamount to saying, oh, I want to start, rock climbing, I'm going to pick Everest, right? But we want to tackle those problems. We also wanted to work on DeFi, which is why we created the most innovative token locker solution in the industry that adheres to the ERC 1155 standard. So we're always looking forward, right? We have University of Floki to provide educational component, so you don't only have a robust knowledge base on financial literacy, but also digital security, which is important. But when we're looking at tokenization, we wanted to provide this to our community, but also make it easier, where you have a one-stop shop where you can go get your education on it, see how you could use it, how does this help like your project, and essentially create the tools that people could use, right? People around the world are very creative. So if you create a very sound user experience, your user interface is very easy to use, and you have the right partners and the appropriate licensure, then you have to execute at the highest levels. And as Ben and Bart can tell you, right, in running their companies, if you do not run like a Fortune 50 company, you won't survive in the economy that's coming. So we need to be part of the solution as opposed to part of the problem. And we always need to try to leave blockchain better than when we found it.
That's I always admire you about you, Pedro, because you always leave a lot of food for thought. You every line you say kind of like leaves for a lot of meditation of that. So we need to find blockchain better than we found it, and leave blockchain better than we found it. I fully align. And on the other side, you Bart, you have already initiated those tokenization processes. You have tokenized the real estate, right? As arguably one, if not the only at this stage in the world with so much trust and so much reliability. So talk to us a little bit of how it what it looks like in practice. Like, is it really difficult to pass through it?
Well, what I always say is that there's so many components to actually being able to successfully execute a tokenized offering. So I would always say that regulation always comes after innovation, and regulators usually are far behind. Especially if you look at where our base is in Europe, they're extremely far behind. So it has definitely been a challenge to get the right legal frameworks, etc., in place. Is one of the reasons why I've been building for years now, to be able to successfully execute that to retail investors. And I think once you have that system in place and you're able to make it financially feasible for the people, which we've done successfully. We've been able to sell our first property offering out within 5 minutes, which was a huge success. So that was a huge milestone, a huge proof of concept for us. And I completely agree with Pedro and Ben, and I think it's all down to education, because obviously we were talking in the beginning about how institutions are now speaking about it, and obviously, as you know, the BlackRocks of this world, they will always be at the front of the line, or otherwise make sure that they're at the front of the line with any new innovation. But to be able to make and distribute this successfully to the 99% of the world, the retail market, the average individual that could profit massively off blockchain, not only fractional ownership, because fractional ownership in itself is not necessarily a new thing, but the fact of being able to for example, sell part of an asset, raise finance on just part of an asset, being able to lend easily, to transfer ownership to multiple people, like Pedro said, the elimination of paperwork. And I think it all comes down to one, education is something what we're doing with our Aesthetics University. As you know, Steve couldn't make this, but he's very keen on education, as you know. So we're working on this Aesthetics University, where we're teaching with, for example, the CEO of Remax, who is now on our board, the biggest property brand of the world. He will do modules about property investment, what makes a good investment, and it all leads back to the basically giving them the tools on the Aesthetics platform. The co-founder of USDT, Brock Pierce, will give a module about crypto and crypto investments and what to look for, and stuff like that. And besides education, I think it all comes down to, like the guy said, on user experience, right? If you go out to the 99% or to 100% of people at your town, a couple percent will probably be invested into crypto, but 100% will be interested in investing into real estate, right? Being able to build generational wealth for themselves, create a hedge against inflation. And then when you're going to start speaking about tokenization and about wallets and about all these numbers, it just makes it very difficult for the average individual, and they will just tune off, right? Because it's just too difficult for them. So what you need to include, and what we are doing as well with Aesthetics in our user experience, is that you just log onto the platform. You're able to swipe through the different properties. You can invest within a couple of minutes. It's all seamless, and you don't even notice you're working with tokens or blockchain. Obviously, for the people interested, there's that education level there for what is in the back end. But in the front end, you just want it to be a couple of clicks, right? A couple of swipes, and they're a real estate investor. A couple of swipes, and they can get finance to it. A couple of clicks, and they can sell their asset again. So that's what you want to create for the average individual. And I think that should be a massive step towards mass adoption that hopefully will come in the coming years. I see a lot of RWA projects and crypto projects not really realizing they speak the Web3 language really well, but not the Web2 language. And I think that there's a massive a gap at the moment, but I'm sure that we will bridge that gap very, very quickly. But I think that is something that the Web3 space currently can win on.
I fully align, and also shout out to Steve as well of Aesthetics. He's such an incredible person, a very, very smart man you have right there, Bart, on your team.
Absolutely.
We know the challenges, all right? We know the blockers, we know the problems, we know what's missing. How about something that we've accomplished in the last weeks, say months, from the perspective of Alchemy? What's the recent kind of like the biggest milestone that you're the most excited about that you've accomplished, Ben?
I guess there's a couple. Like we hit 1 billion transactions, which is like kind of good proof that it's working. We also managed to win a relationship with the largest media agency in the world, and media agencies plan ad campaigns on behalf of some of the biggest brands. So I think getting buy-in from businesses like that proves that we're onto the right thing. But it's we're still very early doors, really. There's $600 billion worth of ad spend out there. We don't necessarily have that much yet. So I think we're making steps in the right direction, but there's still a ton of headroom. I think it's a marketplace that is absolutely ripe for innovation. You have Google currently being dragged through the courts in America, and they're going to have their ad product torn apart. You have Meta that will likely see the same thing, and you have the ways in which the ads were targeted in the past really becoming redundant to some degree. And you have in blockchain like a ready-made solution to solve all of those. Like wallets are great for attribution of ad campaigns. It allows you to reward individuals for their data, but equally have some really great deterministic targeting of those ads. And I think what we'll see is more crypto brands kind of move into this space. You've seen brands really, the large successful ones like sponsor Formula One teams or football clubs, and then they do a ton of performance-based marketing, but don't tend to spend a lot of time in kind of the mid-funnel, which is really key on converting people that have seen your logo on a Formula One car into a customer. That's really where we help. So I'm hoping that as that market matures, we will capture more dollars that aren't necessarily counted. Like these are new brands that are entering the space. You could argue they're like SMEs, except they have huge budgets. So yeah, I think building relationships, or the relationships we have built with kind of existing big marketers, is great, but I'm really excited to capture the ones that kind of enter the space for the first time.
How about you? How about TokenFi, Pedro?
Well, I share, strong parallels with what Ben was saying, right? In some crypto projects, they don't really focus on the conversion formula, right? Do you want to advertise? Do you want to market? Or do you want to have a strong global presence, right? And in order to make a strong impact, right? You should always be data driven. So there's a lot of things that we're very happy with at TokenFi and Floki. I think it's hard to pick one. I would say, like, looking at it from a personal perspective, I think us being governed as a DAO is very important, because you want to put the power in the hands of the people, right? And while that, seems kind of like hokey, right, when you think about it, but TokenFi wouldn't exist if it wasn't for our community, right? Like, this is something that they wanted. They wanted enhanced utility, and we built it. Right. And as Ben was saying, I think marketing is very important. And you want to make sure that people just don't see your logo for the sake of it, right? But that it leads to some type of emotional stimuli, and then to ask the question, what is that? Have I seen that before? And I want to know more. Where do I find the information? So you need to make sure that you have all that well thought out, especially when you don't have the resources of some exchanges, right, or major hedge firms. You have to be very smart with your resources. So when we look at Floki, we've been very, very excited with our strong partners, because we have partnered with a Formula One team, for example, with Alfa Romero, and just like major athletes and like football clubs all over the world. But that only paints part of the picture. All right, you need to go to where your community is and where the data shows you. So when we're looking at the countries and regions with the highest crypto adoption, we want to make sure we have a presence there, whether it's in the APAC region, whether it's in the Western Hemisphere. You'll see dedicated campaigns that we've done, whether it be in Nigeria or Vietnam or Dubai. There's something to be said to go to where your community is. And we're truly a global project in that sense. So I'm very, very proud that we even have TokenFi due to the community. But outside of that, I think if we had to pick what's the thing I'm most proud of, we've actually built 4 schools around the world, and we're working on the 5th. So in the crypto world, if you're in a project there, you're swimming in an ocean of uncertainty and scammers, right? It's incumbent upon the projects that are being led ethically, that they do something with their platform outside of just chasing green candles. So for us, disaster response is important. We've been able to raise over $1 million for the earthquake relief fund in Turkey, and building 4 schools in regions where there was no security in the infrastructure for education is something that, for me, like, I'm personally proud of that, but we need to do more. And I think we need to set the tone and the standard that if you are going to be navigating in the Web3 world, if you're going to be a leader in tokenization, there should be a strong charity component. But again, that's part of our 3 pillars of utility, community, and charity. So I always go to that, because if you forget about your community, then you've really missed the mark. Because out of everything that we do, and we had within the last year and a half, we had over $720 million of total value locked, right? Not market cap, but just TVL within our ecosystem. And that says a lot, right? If you were to compare it to other meme projects, right? You can add the top 10 other meme projects and it wouldn't even come close. This isn't me throwing shade at any other project. This is just me being very proud of what our work and our community is doing, but we need to do more. If you do not innovate, you will be left behind in this current state and market.
Another one, something to put in my notebook, Pedro, right? Because there's like a gold mine of quotes. Everybody, that's such an amazing appreciation always goes to Pedro, and with such a calm voice, by the way. I love it so much.
Oh, appreciate you.
And having this calmness in the discussion board. What's about the S8X that you guys lately have accomplished, that you want to share with our viewers and listeners right now?
Yeah, lots of things. I just first want to say that I really find the initiatives of Pedro and TokenFi and Floki very beautiful. So I just want to really give him his props for what he's been doing there. It's really, I appreciate that, and we're aligned with that with the StateX. We're doing, or we're planning to do similar things. We have donated, for example, fractional ownership to inner city youths for a foundation of celebrities, where we're working with these celebrities, but also being able to provide financial education and gift fractional ownership to let them actually build financial wealth to these disadvantaged youth. So we're aligned on that. So I really find that beautiful, Pedro. So I just want to give you your props for that. Yeah, besides that, we've made lots of progressions. Actually, I think one of the most exciting that we've done recently is we have announced the development of our RWA blockchain is coming in Q3, and we're actually being able to offer, this is not public yet, so this will be a slight scoop. I wanted to give you that scoop. We're actually
Give it.
able to we're actually able to offer regulated tokenization on that blockchain. So with registrars, regulated registrars, and custodians included, so that we can actually facilitate regulated tokenization. So that's a huge step for us. It's coming in Q3, originally planned in Q4. So we're very excited about that. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And one of the beautiful things about that is that we're actually able to, facilitate and offer this all-in-one regulated ecosystem, whether that be from the investing side of things or from the infrastructure side of things. We're actually working with a couple of governments now as well who are interested. I can't say too much. A lot of will come that we're very close to being backed by some actual governments that will also make use of our tokenization solutions, including our blockchain and our white label technology from an infrastructure side of things. So I'm very proud of that and us growing into this all-in-one RWA hub, whether that be from an investment side, financial side, or from the infrastructure side. Besides that, we're moving towards launch. It obviously has been a little bit of the hassle with the recent market conditions. I'm sure we'll talk about the community sentiment in a bit and we'll touch upon that. But no, we've closed some deals with some major tier one influencers. So I'm not talking about these crypto influencers, but actually worldwide phenoms with 20 million subscribers. So that's very exciting. We actually also announced our OTC desk. So the OTC desk we'll be doing that in cooperation with our partners from Remax, Scott Keller. He's the Remax UAE board member, and with Steve Craig, CEO of Remax England and Wales. And we'll actually be offering an OTC desk where business owners and crypto owners can off-ramp their crypto and their business profits immediately into exclusive property opportunities that otherwise wouldn't be available to the general public because of our connections, exclusive market deals that wouldn't see the light because they would be snapped up so quickly by these institutions that will be buying up. So very exciting things that are upcoming. Lots more. We'll announce some very exciting things very soon. And yeah, things are looking good. So proud of that.
Power to the people, right? Through the blockchain, through tokenization. That's what it seems. That's very well thought through, Bart, right there from the Aesthetics side and Alchemy side and Pedro's side as well. Inputs, on the TokenFi and Flocky. I think this is all unbelievably useful to all of our viewers and listeners. And let's give a proper shout out again to Flocky, to TokenFi, to Alchemy, to Aesthetics, because you guys are doing some incredible things, and some of them, just like you notice, are even in the background, right? However, just like we have just got now, Bart kind of like broke the news a little bit. So things are really moving forward. Things are moving fast, right? And speaking of moving fast, it seems that the community on a general crypto level, kind of like regardless if it's RWA sector, if it's AI sector, if it's L1s, L2s, the decentralized infrastructures, it seems that, many people would say, okay, like everything is nice, RWAs is nice, but crypto is dead, right? Why is crypto dumping? Why is there so much negativity? Why is there so many trolls? Why is the price not moving? Why is it pumping, right? And those are the questions that I read and see each and every single day in my comments. And it's something that you may also kind of like notice when you speak with the people. It seems that the retail side, the community side, the user side may give an impression that it's a little bit of the lows. All right, whether or not that's true, that's another story. However, speaking of the community sentiment, of course, Donald Trump's presidency, has, I think, disbalanced a lot of businesses, not only crypto involving, right? It's the way I explain it. I go on the stages, and the way I explain it is kind of like the market is at a little bit of a pendulum, right? That swings from overbought, oversold. What Donald Trump's apparently did, and again, it's not my opinion, it's just a reality. It increased, amplified the volatility. So the amplitude of swings just increased. As a result, the uncertainty has gone through the roof, right? As a result of that, there's been a lot of dumping and selling also on the auto tariff, kind of like, the tariff war. And it may seem that, that it's a dead end. It may seem that there is no tomorrow. It may seem that that things are not moving the way they're supposed to go. At the same time, what I know from my experience, and I'm wrong 50 times a day, is that the night is darkest right before the dawn. right? So where are we on the community sentiment? Are we really bucking up, for something big in the next 2-3 months, let's say, from the perspective of Alchemy? Ben, is that something that you're noticing, this positive wind of change? Is it something that we have to wait for? Is it something that you can induce and help people appreciate it?
That's a good question. I think there's some degree of fatigue. Like we went from there being hundreds of tokens launched per day to millions of tokens when Pump.fun was really in its pomp, as it were. And I think for some people, that was their first experience of crypto. And I think that, sure, some people made some money on that. A lot of people didn't. And if you were like prior to it, if you're like, oh, I think crypto's a bit of a scam, and then you went and got stung, that would be your actual experience of crypto. And I think that now people like once bitten or twice as shy to some degree. That will just take, again, some time for people to recover from that. I think there will probably also be a bit of a move back to projects that have some pretty good fundamentals. So like solving a problem to some degree, have evidence of solving that problem with whatever it's revenue on chain or partners that are using it, like actually this is not just a blockchain for blockchain's sake, it is, or a token for a token's sake, I should say. It's solving a problem for people and there's evidence of that. So I think that, again, is not as easy to kind of figure out as like, I think I like the look of this token, I'm just going to buy it. There requires a different ilk of investor that takes the time to do some research. That is generally slower, but I think generally is better because people have more conviction then in where they're placing their money, the tokens they're holding, the ecosystems they're interacting with and supporting. So I think, I don't know, and I wonder if Pedro or Bart, you have any opinions on this, but I don't know if you can induce it. It's just you keep doing what you've always done. You create a body of work and evidence that you're doing things in the right way, and one hopes that speaks for itself at some degree. So yeah, I don't know what you guys think.
Oh, for sure. You want me to chime in, or Bart? I don't mind. Oh, okay. So, I think you're right. I think there's tons of volatility right now, and I think while we may look at some indicators and say like, wait a minute, things kind of look a little gray right now. We don't know if there's light at the end of the tunnel. I think the market has changed so much and the environment has changed that we're going to look at things differently 5 years down the road. And where some see turbulence and volatility, I see opportunity, right? And I think it's those entities that continue to build no matter what happens in the market. It serves dual purposes. Number one, they continue to innovate where their competitors may just say like, you know what, guys, let's probably relax. We don't know what's going to happen. You don't want to be in that bunch, right? You want to continue to innovate because that makes everybody in the team understand that, look, we're here to win. And that's really important, staying positive while others may be nervous. I think that's a competitive advantage. And then on the second side, I think that also serves your community, right? And your strongest supporters and your partners. And you can't go wrong when your entire community and partners see, look, man, yeah, things are not looking good right now. Red candles after red candles, quarter after quarter. And I'm just using that as, as an example. These guys can continue to knock it out of the park. And I think that's the one basket where you want to be in, right? And that's very much what Floki and TokenFi has been doing, as well as Ben and Bart, right? Like, you continue to build and you're not going to stop, right? So and there's that but there's also this other side where we need to make sure, and sometimes I'm very guilty of this. I forgot what it was like my first day when I started crypto, right? And then I had to join a Telegram group, and I never used Telegram before. And these people were asking me for all these info, right? Like, if you go back to day one, it's scary, right? You don't know what to do. And wait a minute, I got to copy an address, a smart contract address. What is that? And put it in a DEX and connect it's freaky stuff, right? So if you could always go back to that point, right? It's tantamount to saying like, oh, if I can go back to high school, knowing what I know now, how would my experience be different, right? Or if I can go being a child, being really young, what would I do different? And you could almost think about all the savings that you would have, right? And if you could look through the lens of how Floki looks at problems, it's like that, right? So that's why our products are always serving those spaces, which is why we created a trading bot. If you were to think about all the times that you're waiting there, right, for a transaction to go through and it fails because you didn't get the slippage right and you didn't know about it, right, because there was a transaction tax, and that's like very frustrating. It just like sucks all the oxygen out of the experience, and then you couldn't get in on the project that you wanted to. You saw it at $1 million market cap and it shoots up to 150, and then you feel betrayed. You feel like, well, why didn't anybody tell me, right? And there's this whole approach of, well, where can I get the information? But under it all, there's this element of I feel like I'm missing out, right? And people always shoot to FOMO, but it's beyond that, right? It's a stinging sensation that happens whether you get rugged or whether you were scammed or whether you couldn't get in the deal that your gut told you about, right? And it's those same elements that I think are going to be instrumental in the marketing of what's coming, right? Because people always feel, and I'm talking not necessarily about Bitcoin maxis, but the regular person that you would meet, your neighbor, your friend, right? That doesn't believe in crypto, that doesn't see the use case, that cannot understand how you own something that you can't hold, right? They feel sometimes that, oh, but if I only would have gotten into Bitcoin early at $1 or $2, then I would do it, because then I would be an early adopter and then I would ride this wave, as opposed to looking at it now and joining at the perceived high. And I think that's going to be a golden opportunity for those projects that truly have strong fundamentals to market on that perspective. That, like, look, you may have missed out on Bitcoin early, but you don't have to miss out on what's coming with RWA and tokenization. And if you can't change that, but you can participate in this. And it's those companies that do that in a very profound way, in a very organic way, are going to start siphoning some folks that, hey, well, maybe let me give this a shot. I own real estate, I own buildings, but why don't I try this? And once that happens, then those are the discussions that carry over when they work out with their friends, or when they're playing 18 holes, right? Or where they're at the football game, they're like, oh, but you don't know about this? And then that word of mouth starts to spread, and then we can get to that critical mass. We're not there yet, but I think we have a wonderful opportunity to inspire and then to educate.
Love it so much. That's always so deep. Wow. Bart, like, how do you guys manage to keep the excitement alongside, those facts, those achievements, and at the same time, the combination of that with the negative sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, I think to start off, just like you said in the beginning, it's currently, the market is extremely, extremely unpredictable. One thing that was about Biden, obviously, apart from the bear market that mostly the Biden presidency was in, but one thing that was in the Biden administration was, it was very boring. But boring also means it's relatively predictable, right? And that's what usually markets like. So it's like, you get the sentiment now in especially within the estates community, but I think in every community as well, that it is very unpredictable. People don't know really what to invest in. People are, like Ben said, really fatigued, impatient at the moment, and especially in Web3, everything goes so fast already in Web3. So people will want to see everything new every day, and they that want to see that excitement back. And at the moment, you don't have that. So people tend to move on to things like meme coins, just like Pedro said, etc., etc. Obviously, there's a whole nother world. It's, more like a gambling type of situation, more like a distraction. But if you see and I think that CZ pointed it out really well, in a moment or in a time period where there's insecurity in the market, or the market is not performing well, you focus on the projects that put in the foundations in place, right? That are building, people that are actually creating something and adding value to not only the Web3 space, but whatever sector they're in at the moment, whether that be ads for Alchemy, or whether that be real estate here for EstateX, or whether that be anything else. So I think that's the moment currently, how you try to manage it. People will be disappointed with the market sentiment. I tend not to focus too much on things you cannot control. rather shift energy to what you can control, what you can create, where you can add value to, and where to build. And I think that's currently what we're all doing currently here on this panel. So I think that is the strategy. And if people see that you achieve things, you're moving forward, they see the potential, they're seeing more and more building blocks being put into place that eventually is going to lead to success, to the right foundation. For example, what we're doing with the StateX, we're putting in all these business ventures, now also the OTC desk, with all the fees flowing back into the ESX token, getting buy pressure. So if people see that those foundations are being put more and more in place, it might be a temporary situation of, okay, it's uncertain and we don't know where we're going, but they see that in the long run, the right steps are being taken for success. So that is currently what we're doing, and that's, I think, the way you need to manage this situation and focus on what you can create and where you can add value.
Don't focus on the things that you cannot change, right? That's what my wife told me the other day, and all of a sudden I was comfortable losing a lot of money. So thanks for bringing that good memory right here. Although fully aligned, fully agreed, and being conscious of that we're running out of time slowly, gentlemen, and let you go back, to your busy schedules. The final question that I love to leave our viewers and listeners with, from the POV perspective of TalkingFi, and Flocky and Alchemy and StateX, who are all of our incredible partners that I highly encourage everybody to go ahead and Google them out, check them out on whatever you can. Go ahead and check all the press, check all the documentation, check all the white papers. Go ahead and give them a follow button, basically hit on the follow button, because they deserve that. They've been in this space. They have skin in the game. They have incredible peace and calmness to kind of like guide you through the muddy waters, right, of the next 12 and 18 months. And here goes the final question. What's the final golden tip, Pedro, you would leave our viewers and listeners from the perspective of TalkingFi or Flocky? Something to look up to, something that they should pay attention the next 12, 18 months. What's that going to be?
Well, I think one of the things is do your research, right? Focus on fundamentals. Have 3 to 5 separate references where you source your details from. Okay, you want to make sure that you're not only looking at optimistic sources, right? It's important you focus on historical trends, but that may not translate to future performance. And also understand that a SWOT analysis, or whatever you may learn in your traditional MBA or finance, or your first 2 years of working at a bank, may not work in crypto, right? But I think one thing that is universal is a psychological component, right? Don't look at the charts. Try to live healthy, right? Don't be worried about the 4-hour candles. Zoom out. Outside of that, I think you want to spend your time on expanding your knowledge base, number one, because the space moves really fast. And 2, when you dissect what a project is doing, try to understand what their intentions are. Right? Do they really want to embrace a great environment for their community so that they could experience, right, the financial success they're looking for? If that's the case, great. Do they put people over profits? Right? That's something that's also like important, because we're doing amazing things at Floki and TalkingFi. Of course, I'm very optimistic, right, in my approach when I say that, but out of everything we're doing, our most valuable asset is our community, right? We wouldn't be there here if it wasn't for them. But we have a lot of things coming. There's a lot of things riding here, because just like when you sign your name on a contract, it's binding, right? Promises made to our community are promises that have to be kept, right? And then it's our execution and perseverance in achieving that says everything about us, right? Where we won't compromise who we are, no matter how large our platform will be. So this year is very important. Not only have we've seen close to $200 million of total trading volume on our trading bot. That was an instrument that essentially it's agnostic, right? It doesn't matter if you're a Bitcoin maxi or not, and having a good trading bot is important. But we have major advances coming to our ecosystem, whether it's Valhalla, which is our play to earn metaverse game. It's an entire metaverse that was created by our community for our community, fixing the problems that have been plaguing blockchain gaming. Outside of that, there's education initiatives, and it's what our TalkingFi platform is trying to do, is give more instruments to users so that it's easier to create your own project, to seed funding. More importantly, make sure that it's secure, that we relieve the barriers to entry, which could be significant, right, depending on what you're trying to do, but then also offer additional options. And for people that want to tokenize, RWA, can do so in an easy way, right? And which transcends outside of like the real estate focus, right? Because you could essentially tokenize anything, but the idea is how you do it. Is it in an ethical fashion? Is it secure? And are those contracts audited? Right? And these are all like very important things. So don't want to take too much time, but we're a lot more than a one-trick pony. So we can have an entire thesis on what we're trying to do, but it's a robust ecosystem that we're fueling. It's an incredible community that we're fighting for, and we want to work with and be aligned with great partners like Ben and like Bart, because this is a lot more than me. This is a lot more than just the brand of Floki. It's for each individual user that finds themselves in blockchain, that goes in there trying to make their life better. Can we be part of that vision? And if we can, and do it in a very sound, best business practice in an ethical fashion, and I would say yes. And we want to be a part of that mission and that movement. So thank you very much for the time, and an incredible panel. I would love to connect after and see what we could do and cross-pollinate.
Fully endorse the alignment there, and something that I encourage you gentlemen obviously to have a discussion, because that's, with strong men coming together and strong women coming together, that's how the world actually can change over just the words that many people are, it's much simpler to be a backseat driver, right? However, you gentlemen are far different, 100% opposite than someone who is just gonna talk. You guys are actually doers, and that's something I truly appreciate. And Bart, again, to close off before Ben, the final tip that you leave our viewers and listeners for the next months to come, Bart, what's it going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very aligned with what Pedro says, so that's actually what I had in mind as well. So I do not want to give any any try to be smart and give any other advice than what people really need to hear, right? So yes, I completely agree with what Pedro said. Focus on the foundations, look what projects add real value. Little tip, also stay away from meme coins if you don't want to lose the money. Now, but all jokes aside, focus on those projects that add value, that build, that are putting the right foundations in place, that are making the right steps. You can pick them out, I think, with some research, quite good, like Pedro said as well, get extensive references from multiple people, multiple sources. I think, Adrian, you're a great reference to see what projects to support, what not to support, and do some research from there, because I know personally Adrian would never recommend anything that would not be good for his community or for his investors. So I think that would be a great starting base. And I also align with Pedro. Let's see what we can do after with Ben, with you, Pedro, and Adrian. So Adrian, thank you for the opportunity for being here. It was a pleasure to speak in front of all of you, and I hope to see you next time.
Beautiful. I fully align as well, Bart. It's been awesome. And Ben, to close us off for today's roundtable, the best tip you'd leave our viewers and listeners from the perspective of Alchemy and from the perspective of yours the next months to come, what's it going to be, Ben?
A lot's been said. I think they're two tough acts to follow. So I guess maybe don't go broad, go deep. I think when you get involved with a community, projects are often very open to that, and it can be the most rewarding thing that you end up doing. I think rather than spreading yourselves too thin, focusing on some things that align with your values and how you think about blockchain and crypto will just make the most sense. But yeah, I think all in all, Pedro, you nailed it. And so did you, Bart. Now you're back. And just thank you both for your time. It's great to be part of the panel. And let's stay in touch afterwards. It'd be great to
love it so
both.
much. So much positivity, so much calmness, so much conviction, so much hard work, and so much success already behind us, and so much more yet to come from our today's partners and incredible panelists, from Ben of Alchemy, from Bart of StateX, and from Pedro of TokenFi and Floki. And something I think to look forward to for everybody is not only to give them a follow, basically, to those incredible people, to Ben, to Bart, to Pedro, to their brands, to their personal achievements, to how amazing of the people they are. They deserve all the fullest recognition, and I fully write my name under that. And above everything, I think it's a part. There's always a power. There's always an intelligence. There's always a result, a good result, something that you want to have and entertain, of picking the right projects. And today, ladies and gentlemen, we were talking with the right projects. So I thank you so much for your time, for expertise, for the wealth of knowledge. I've been your host, Adrian Zunchik, CMT Charter Market Technician, and I'll see you on the next session. God bless. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Take care.